Why don't you just start off by introducing yourself?
Okay. My name is Kristina Parker, and I've been a dental hygienist for 25 years. I started out as a dental assistant, then worked for the military, and that was a great experience. And then decided to further my career, became a dental hygienist. And being a dental hygienist was awesome, but there's so many opportunities within dental hygiene. So I took my bachelor's degree through OHU University, and then I decided to teach. I taught at a local college here. I taught dental hygiene, and that was a fabulous experience as well. And then I also do a lot of community work. I do in public schools. I go along and do healthcare presentations, because I'm not sure if it's the same in the States, but in Canada, they've removed the oral healthcare curriculum out of the school, which is too bad. But when they did have it in there, the teachers were like, we don't know anything about that. So because I had a daughter in public school, they had me come in and just teach the kids about healthy mouths, brushing, good oral habits. So I did that. My daughter worked for the Salvation Army, and that is for homeless people. I'm not sure if you have anything like that in the States, but it's for people. It's a place where they can go to sleep at nighttime. It's a place where they can go and get food, where they can get some services, social services and that. And she talked to her boss, and they are looking to have, once COVID is over, to have me come in and just do some education to the adults that are there. Wow. So I would really have to change my approach, because little kids are so different than adults. And then after teaching at the college, I decided to open up my own practice. And
can I stop you there?
Sure.
I want to stop you there, because that's something I want to talk about in a little bit more detail.
Okay.
And something that you should consider is that our audience is international. So we've got we've got friends of OHU University all around the world, and graduates and students all around the world. Salvation Army, we're definitely familiar with that in the UK. But I want to know a little bit about where you're living, and your home and your family. Tell us about that.
Okay. So I live in a town, or a city, I guess. It's a very fast growing city right now, Barrie, Ontario. We're about an hour away from Toronto and about 4 hours away from Ottawa, which is the capital of Canada. So this town has it's grown so much, but we're, I think, at about 250,000 population. And my home is an older home. I've owned it for about 13 years. And my one daughter grew up, moved out. And so I was like, oh, I have some empty space. So I was renting a place just down the road, which was a dental office in the past. And I just kind of created it for my own. And I started practicing there. And I have
So how did that come about? How did you go from, so you were working in a practice?
Yes.
For somebody else?
So, and I wasn't happy. There was no autonomy. I was dictated how to do things, and my patients really enjoyed me, but they just didn't like the other aspects of it. So I had a lot of feedback from them as to what they wanted. So while I was working in a practice, I got to learn about what my patients in my community really wanted. So there just came a time where it took me about 2 years to start thinking, hey, maybe I want to do something different.
So
I have 2 children.
Can I just stop you there? So what was it that your patients wanted that weren't getting in the other practice?
They wanted to talk to me more. They wanted to be felt important and not just a number, not just in and out. Dentist comes in, has a quick 2-second look, and then leaves. There was no real personal skills that were, no relationships that were being built. So they felt like, and then with dentists too, sometimes they just keep increasing their prices. And sometimes patients are like, well, wait a second, like, last year you did this much and now you're doing it even more. And not to say that you shouldn't increase your prices, because you have to be fair to your patients, but you can't undersell yourself either. So, just having those conversations was like, I love coming to see you, Kristina, and I love what you do, but I just feel rushed. I feel like I can't ask you about your girls. I can't tell you about my day. I can't become like a friend. And I know that there's those lines too with PIPA and all that, where you have to maintain professionalism and that. But at the end of the day, people are people. And I have to connect. I have to know that person, because if you build a relationship, you're going to get their trust, and then they're going to listen to you. And I have to say, all my patients, they take really good care of their teeth. I don't have perio patients that, every time they come in, it's just a mess. Like, they listen to me, but it's because I've been their friend, and I don't point my finger and you need to do this and you need to do that. I just go, you know what, this area. So it's just the communication, I think, that makes the difference. And that's what they were lacking at the dental office.
So how did you how did that opportunity come about, and then how did you move through that process?
So when I kind of felt like I needed something else, I just started doing some research. Okay, so dental hygienists can work on their own. Okay, what do I need to do in order to work on my own? So I created a business plan. And that has a lot to do with the financials, which is very important, but it also had to do with your community, what your practice is going to look like, what you're going to focus on in your practice. So that was sort of just checking in with other dental hygienists that were on their own, going to see their practice, going to talk to them about it, going to see how they did it, and just to get a vibe. Because at the end of the day, I was in my 40s. I'm like, maybe this isn't for me. So you have to find out, you have to do your research. And then I started resourcing places. Okay, so if I have a storefront, what does that look like? What does that cost? Versus, renting a chair from a dentist and all those. So I went through that list to find what fit for me. And then after that, I started to, reach out to say, if I wanted to lease space, how much would that cost? Because in your business plan, you have to have everything so detailed, and it's for your own good too. So then once I had gone to the bank, got my loan, I got a business visa, and it's always good to have a little extra money. Like, never be short on the amount, because your start is going to be slow. You're not going to have, 5 patients a day, 5 days a week right off the hop. So you have to be prepared for financially supporting your business for the first year and a half anyways, before it can financially support you. So, the banking was done. I met with the dentist, and well, actually it was a spot for lease. And I thought, well, I'll be in here because there was a naturopathic doctor. It was above a Shoppers Drug Mart, and that's like a Walgreens, I guess, in the States. So I thought, that's great, because people are going to be going into that store. They're going to see me. So I thought that might be a good way to kind of create a patient base. And the naturopathic doctor who was renting out the space, his brother was a dentist. And he's like, actually, we have a spot in our house, which we've practiced out of for years. It's just dormant right now if you want it. And the next day I went, I had a look, and I was in. Like, it was so off the beaten track. It was not on a bus route. It was not anywhere that people would be seeing me. But I thought, what? It's a good opportunity. Everything's there. I didn't have to buy a chair. I didn't have to, do counters and sinks and everything, because it was already a dental office. And the best part was the family had an amazing practice. And as soon as patients drove by, because I had a big flag out front just to let them know, people came just because of that. They're like, oh, Dr. Stofford, he's working again. I'm like, no, it's just me. They're like, oh, well, I'll try you out anyways. So it was.
So how long ago was that? How long ago was that?
That was 7 years ago.
Okay. So that was your,
and it took me.
And so that was 7 years ago when you bought the place. And
well, I didn't buy it, I just
rented it, sorry. And how long did it take you to get up and running?
It was October that I went and saw it, and by April I was up and running, because I wanted to redo the floor, I wanted to paint, because it was definitely an office that was dated in the 70s. But because it was a family office, I didn't want to change too much stuff either. So I wanted to keep it somewhat original, but I upgraded it a bit and just made it a little more modern. So I was there renting that space for, I guess it was 5 years. And then
on your own.
So I just rented the space, did it all by myself, no dentist, no staff, nothing, just all me. And I think you have to start that way. You can't go gung-ho and want staff and have an assistant. It's financially not feasible or realistic to start that way.
Wow.
Yeah.
And how did you market yourself other than having a flag outside of your practice?
Yeah. So I had a grand opening. So I did some research on creating a pamphlet and had a grand opening. So in like a 30-kilometer radius from my practice, I paid the post office to deliver to all the homes just a little flyer that said, hey, grand opening, come see what's new in your neighborhood. I invited the mayor. I invited like someone to do photo op. So there's a local newspaper. So I had them come and do, just kind of a write-up about my grand opening and what I was doing, because in our city, there wasn't a whole lot of dental hygienists that were out on their own. So it was also to educate the community that this is also another option. So having that, and my grand opening was just, there was a draw. So you put your name in and you could win an electric toothbrush, you could win a whitening kit and things like that. So it made it interesting. I had entertainment, I had a magician. So people that saw that, and I also had a big sign out front that said grand opening on this date, so that, again, people driving by, because I was in the middle of nowhere, really. So to let people know, and those were the things that drew people in, and they were kind of like interested, like, what is this all about? What is it that you actually do? So it gave me an opportunity to meet them, but also to explain what I was offering. So that was really, really helpful. Moving forward, word of mouth is the only way that I advertise. I don't pay for a newspaper or television spots, commercials, or anything like that. It's word of mouth. And if you offer a good service, people are going to go, and when they're chatting with their neighbor, they go, I just went to the dental hygienist. And that conversation, you'd be surprised, but it does come up quite a bit.
Fantastic.
So there's no real marketing other than that.
So how long was it before you would say you would have the amount of patients that you really wanted?
Well, I'm still taking new patients, even after 7 years. So I kind of set a goal, and I think it's really important. I think when you set goals that are realistic goals, it gives you a drive. It gives you a destination to kind of work towards. So the first year, I just wanted 100 patients. That's all. Just something pretty simple, something that I felt I could do. And I worked in a dental office in Barrie for 15 years. So I always wore my name tag so that people knew who I was. And then my business name is my name. So it's easy for my patients to find me once I left that office, because you're not allowed to solicit. And I don't know if that's different in the States or not, but I'm not allowed to go out and say, oh, come over here. I used to treat you here, but I'm moving now. You come with me. We're not allowed to do that. So that's sort of how I went about that.
Fantastic. So are you happy now with the numbers that you have?
Yeah, absolutely. And it keeps growing, especially right now with COVID, because dental offices are backlogged, and because they have so many people working for them, they have to have different guidelines. For me, I'm in my home. I don't have staff. I don't have to worry about all those things that IPAC, Health Canada, all those things set out, because it's just me and my patient. So every year I set a goal. How many more patients do I want? And when I saw that I could gain 100 patients in a year, and I mean, again, I'm in the community. I'm a big part of helping out. I'm a Rotarian. There's so many parts that I don't do it because I want patients, but I put myself out there. And people are always so interested when I say, oh yeah, I just work from home. They're like, you clean teeth from home? And I'm like, yeah, like, they're like, I didn't know you could do that. So it was something, again, just educating, getting it out there. And through that, that's how I just, every year I gathered more and more steam. So now I'm looking at it because I have two daughters. I have a 21-year-old and a 17-year-old. They both live with me. And so, you know, there's a time when I'm going to be a grandma eventually, not anytime soon, but eventually. So I want to kind of plateau. I want to find a balance now of my work and my life, so that when I do have grandbabies, that I can be available to be a part of their life. So that is, for me, I'm not looking to ramp up my business. It is growing, but it's at a rate that I'm comfortable with. And at the end of the day, you have people that move, you know, that change offices or whatever. So there's a nice balance with the growth.
Sure. So what would you say are the really big hurdles that you had to overcome? And the hoops you had to jump through?
Yeah, dentists, they're not that fond of what we do. And I think it's because they feel threatened. At the end of the day, I truly believe there's enough to go around. I think there is enough patients for everybody. And, you know, if you treat your patients fairly and they feel that they're receiving a good service from you, they're not going to go anywhere else. If they're unsatisfied, that's when they're going to look for something different. So because I worked in so many offices in Barrie, I ended up getting to know dentists. So, you know, I've had dentists come and hire me just to educate their staff on head and neck exams, oral cancer, because being a teacher, I have that ability and that credential as well. So, and then Dr. Stofford, who I ended up having the office, renting the office from, he is still a fabulous dentist. So a lot of information from him and support from him, which was very, very beneficial. And then the obstacles, it really is to find dentists and specialists that you can collaborate with on your patients, because we do need to send them to other people sometimes. And you have to have and build a good relationship so that you know that those patients are coming back. And at the end of the day, they don't come back unless you're not treating them properly. But I've had dentists go, oh, you need your teeth cleaned, you're here now, let's just do it. So you're going to run into that, but that's my biggest obstacle, is just making the dentist feel okay with what we do.
Sure. So what advice would you give anybody that was thinking of doing what you do and going through that process?
Well, I think to research what your community wants or needs. Do you have a large elderly community? Do you have a lot of new families that, you know, little kids? So find out what it is that your community, kind of what their demographic is. And, you know, not that you have to change and alter what you're going to offer to them, but just know what's out there. I think envision what you want. So it took me a long time. It took me almost 2 years from the day when I went, maybe I want to be on my own. So until I actually sat down with that first patient. Yeah. So that whole process, I think, is, you know, you have to see it. You have to what does your space look like? Think about what you want for your space. What services do you want to offer? Do you want to offer sports guards? Like, are you in a community where there's a lot of hockey and rugby and things like that? You know, is it a spot where people tend to go different areas more beautiful for like weddings and things like that? You want to offer whitening. So try to have your practice speak to you, but also have parts of it that your community feels that, hey, that's something I want. And also set yourself aside from the rest of the independent dental hygienists. What is it that you have to offer? What is it that, you know, people will go, oh, I like her over her. Like, and I'm not saying one's bad or good, but what credentials? And so on my website, I have, you know, that I worked for the military. I have that I taught dental hygiene. Those people love that kind of stuff. They feel like, wow, you must know your stuff.
Sure.
So that would be another thing. And truly to be a part of the community and educate as often as you can. I think that's really important. You know, I love doing community service. I also, being a Rotarian, I go to different countries and offer dental hygiene services in underprivileged areas. So those kinds of things, just, it helps you to create a better understanding, to be more passionate, and you bring all that back to your practice at home. So community, I think, is a huge part. Community service would be my biggest thing. Go out there and go into the schools, go to Brownies, Girl Guides, Cubs, I don't know, Scouts, whatever, you know, but whatever organizations, especially to reach the younger kids, because they are going to grow up and have families. And if they stay in your community, they're going to know about you. So that, I think, is very important too.
So what I'm hearing you say is that being a genuinely good person is as important as being a proficient hygienist.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
That's really interesting. So what would you say you've learned? What would you say you've learned from the whole process? And also, what have you learned about yourself?
I've learned through the process that, man, it's scary. And so I learned about myself that even though it is scary, if you're passionate and you want to do it, you can make it happen. You know, when I did it, I had 2 teenage daughters that were, you know, in high school. So I had to make sure financially that I could send them to university and take care of my home still, because I own my own house. So that was scary. It's taking a risk, not steady. So that, I think, was something that was a very scary part of it for me, but I prepared myself in the beginning. Start simple. Don't have all the biggest and fanciest equipment. What you need, and you can call your, I'm not sure what companies, you know, are out there for other countries and so forth, but the dental companies, sometimes you can get things where, you know, a dental office had a sterilizer and they just realized, you know what, it's just too small, it's not working, they send it back. So you can get ones that, you know, aren't brand new, but at a way cheaper price. And that's what I did. And my sterilizer after 7 years is still working, but it was a pre-owned one. Reach out, because sometimes other independents are selling off things because either they are retiring or because of COVID, they just don't want to do it anymore. So a variety of equipment, and know your stuff. So you're getting good equipment, but don't buy the biggest and the best and all the fancy at the beginning, because you want to have your space should be clean, very simple, very safe, and accessible for your patients. And if you kind of keep the KISS rules, keep it simple, I think you'll be fine. But just have that extra bit of money that you know you can live off of, because your business is not going to pay you out of the first year to do.
Sure. So be thrifty. So
Yes.
what's the end game? So how do you see yourself kind of like going forward, retiring, getting out of it? So how does that happen?
So it's interesting because the friends that I have that are dentists, they're still in it, like 80 years old, they're still going. And I love it that I feel my end game would be a very slow transition out of it. So, once maybe I have grandbabies, I might look at going down to 3 days a week. And then maybe 2, and then maybe just my select. I even tried to talk my kids, do you guys want to be a dental hygienist? Like, you can take over my business when I'm done. They didn't want to have anything to do with it. So my end game, I've got a good 15 years left before I retire. So 60, I feel that would be fair, but I don't know at 60 if I'll be completely out of it. It's in my home. It's so convenient. I could just work a day or 2. I know my family's like, but Mom, but I do love it. So right now I think 15 more years in, and my body is healthy. I don't have carpal tunnel. I don't have bad eye vision. My back isn't sore. So again, I try to keep healthy so that I can have that 15 years of enjoyable work environment.
Brilliant. That's can you believe that's half an hour?
I don't know. That's crazy.
I'm gonna stop recording, and then we can finish up.